Okay, so let's talk about something that's, well, on pretty much everyone's mind at some point. Sex. We're all captivated by it, but have you ever stopped to ask the really big question, why? It turns out the answer has a lot less to do with romance and a whole lot more to do with the ancient wiring inside your brain.
And I want to be clear right from the start. It's not just you. This is a totally universal thing. Science has shown pretty conclusively that this constant hum of attraction and desire is a core part of our human programming. So in this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain and figure out what is really driving this incredibly powerful fundamental urge.
First things first, we have to talk about the evolutionary urge. And to really get it, we need to go way, way back. Because on the most basic level, this whole thing isn't really about love or even about pleasure. It's about something much more primal. It's about survival. So what is the big deal, evolutionarily speaking? Well, it all boils down to one simple, powerful idea: genetic variety. See, when you mix your genes with a partner's, you're essentially creating a brand new combination. This genetic shuffling is like giving the next generation a bigger, better toolkit, making them more adaptable and better equipped to handle whatever curveballs the future might throw at them. You can actually see this instinct in action in some pretty wild ways in the animal kingdom. Get this. Take monitor lizards. When everything's going great, when the environment is stable and there's plenty of food, they can actually reproduce all by themselves, asexually. But the second things get stressful, say there's a drought or a food shortage, they switch. They start seeking out partners to reproduce sexually. It's this deep, instinctual trigger to mix up the gene pool when things get tough.
All right, so we've got the why. It's for survival. But what about the how? How do our brains actually go about picking a partner out of the crowd? Well, let's get into the science of attraction and decode this sort of hidden subconscious language of lust.
You know, it starts with something you probably don't even consciously think about: your voice. It turns out it carries a ton more information than just the words you're actually saying. It's kind of wild, but our brains take these incredible evolutionary shortcuts. Study after study shows that we subconsciously connect the pitch of someone's voice to physical signs of health and fertility. So higher-pitched female voices get linked to a smaller waist-to-hip ratio. Deeper male voices suggest broad shoulders and that V-shaped torso. It's almost like a prehistoric dating profile, where our ears learned to see a good potential mate. And get this, it's incredibly specific. A woman's voice is rated as most attractive right at the peak of her fertility during ovulation.
Okay, from sound, we're moving on to smell. And this might be one of the weirdest but coolest parts of attraction. Is it possible that you can literally sniff out a good match?
Yeah, it sounds pretty bizarre. I know. There was this famous experiment where scientists had a group of men wear the same t-shirt for 2 days straight. No deodorant. Then they had women smell these shirts and rate them. It's a strange setup for sure, but what they found revealed something absolutely profound about our biology. So what were they even looking for with those sweaty shirts? Well, to understand the results, we have to talk about something called the Major Histocompatibility Complex, or MHC for short. The simplest way to think about it is this. Your MHC is basically the unique genetic fingerprint of your immune system. And here's the punchline. The women in the study consistently and subconsciously preferred the scent of men whose MHC genes were the most different from their own. And why would that be? Well, if you combine two very different immune systems, you're much more likely to produce children who have a stronger, more diverse defense against illnesses and diseases. Your nose is literally playing genetic matchmaker without you even knowing it. And the last piece of this subconscious puzzle is sight. Specifically, our brain's fascination with facial symmetry. Even if we don't consciously register it, our brains are hardwired to see symmetrical faces as a sign of youth, good health, and even positive personality traits, all of which are green flags for a strong potential partner. Okay, so your ears, your nose, your eyes have all given the green light. You're attracted. What happens next, inside your head, is, well, it's a full-blown chemical explosion. And it looks surprisingly familiar to something else entirely. So to figure this all out, let's look at the work of anthropologist Dr. Helen Fisher. She ran this massive study where she put 2,500 college students into fMRI machines, all to see what happens in the brain when you're looking at a photo of someone you are madly in love with.
And the result was absolutely mind-blowing. The brain activity of a person newly in love looks almost identical to the brain of a drug addict who's getting a fix. That intense, can't eat, can't sleep feeling, that's not just a poetic idea. It's actual neuroscience.
And when you look at the brain scans side by side, the comparison is just stunning. Both new love and drug addiction light up the exact same primitive parts of the brain, the caudate nucleus and the ventral tegmental area. This is the brain's core reward system. It's the part that drives motivation, pleasure, and that laser-focused attention, creating this intense craving for whatever is causing that feeling, whether that's a substance or a person.
And this feeling is powered by a really potent chemical cocktail. Your dopamine levels shoot through the roof, giving you that euphoric high and intense craving. At the same time, your cortisol, the stress hormone, also spikes, which is why new love can feel so nervy and anxious. And to top it all off, your serotonin levels actually drop, which can lead to those obsessive, I can't stop thinking about them thoughts. It's the perfect recipe for beautiful, wonderful chaos.
But that chaotic, drug-like high, it can't last forever. Our bodies just aren't built for that kind of intensity long term. So our brains are also wired for another phase. Let's look at the chemistry that shifts us from that frantic feeling to a deep, lasting connection. This is where you see a big chemical handoff happen. That roller coaster of dopamine and cortisol from the honeymoon phase starts to calm down and level out. And in its place, a totally new set of chemicals takes over: oxytocin and vasopressin. People often call these the love hormones. Oxytocin is the famous cuddle hormone. It gets released during physical touch, like hugging, and it creates those deep feelings of intimacy and security. Then you have vasopressin, which you can think of as the commitment hormone. It's linked to long-term bonding and feeling protective of your partner. Together, these two build the biological foundation for a calm, content, and durable attachment.
So, we've gone through the evolutionary drives, the subconscious signals, the brain chemistry, but how does this all fit into the bigger picture of our actual lives?
Well, here's a really crucial thing to remember. As powerful as this sex drive is, it's not our number one instinct. There was this great experiment at Caltech where a male mouse who was exposed to the scent of a female would totally ignore her if he also smelled a predator nearby. The lesson there is pretty clear. Self-preservation, survival, trumps sex every single time.
And that really brings us to the most important point of all. Because as Dr. Fisher herself reminds us, our biology is not our destiny. Our brains give us the basic wiring for lust and for attachment, but our personal experiences, our culture, our choices, those are the things that truly shape who we are and how we love.
So in the end, yeah, science can map the brain. It can identify the chemicals. It can explain the biological why behind it all. But the magic, the mystery, the actual story of who you love, that part is uniquely and wonderfully yours to write.